Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome to lecture number 30 and it's about the stakeholders management. We have very often discussed the term stakeholder in most of our previous lectures, and we have talked about what the internal stakeholders are, that are mostly the employees in that organization, regardless of the position they are serving on. And second are the external stakeholders, and those are the entities that uh, are not directly associated to the internal setup of an organization, but are working outside and are somehow associated to it and are affecting the organization. So the concept of stakeholders are based on all the entities that are associated to an organization and how they shape up that business or the product or services it is delivering. So today we will be seeing all of these aspects in detail. And before moving onward, let's look what we have discussed in the previous lecture. First we discussed about the aspect of one-on-one marketing, and we discussed it how it is different from the general marketing concepts that we had discussed in the lecture previous to that. And then we discussed about the four levels of customer sensitivity and how it uh, benefits the organizations that observe the customer sensitivity to the highest level. And then we discussed that how one-on-one marketing and the customer sensitivity is associated to the broader picture of guerrilla marketing, and how it is different from the approach of guerrilla marketing is different from that of mass marketing, and what benefits can be earned from uh, implementing guerrilla marketing in your organization. Next, we discussed about the development of different competitive advantages while adapting different aspects or techniques of guerrilla strategies, and that we discussed about how much customer focus was important. And then we discussed about the maintenance of the quality measures and how important it is for the customers and their retainment towards our business. And then we discussed about the convenience of our product deliverance to the customer and in an effective way. Next, we discussed about what innovation is and how important it is for our businesses, and the sources from which that innovation can be integrated into our already existing systems. So we discussed that it can not only come from within an organization but also from outside the organization and from the customers as well. So that was the core idea that was related to the customer sensitivity, as we have talked about. And then we lastly discussed about the aspect of service and the associated speed, and that defined that we should deliver the products in time to our customers to keep them happy and have a goodwill associated or reverted to the organization at the end of the day. And lastly, we discussed that how we can expand our business reach by using the internet, and how effective it has been for the businesses that have implemented that approach. So coming back to the today's topic, that is about the stakeholders management. So as we have just discussed, and we will be in the next slide seeing at the definition of what stakeholder is, we have the basic idea of what a stakeholder is, right? So it is an individual, a group or an organization that can possibly affect your business in a direct manner or an indirect manner. So before moving on to the management of those stakeholders, we have to first recognize the stakeholders that are existent in our business, right? First you have to identify that we have to sort out the entities, either these are individuals or these are different business setups or different groups that can possibly affect our organization or business in the short term or in the long run, or at some point in the near future. You have to figure it out, right? And you have to strategize it. And once you have figured out those stakeholders, you have to prioritize them, right? You can't be giving unneeded attention to the stakeholders that uh, are of low priority. You have to prioritize them so that the due attention can be given to the relevant stakeholders in timely manner and may not disturb or disrupt your business activities. So let's see what stakeholders are. Stakeholders are basically defined as an individuals groups with a multitude of interests, expectations, and demands as to what business should provide to the society. Because at the end of the day, all the individuals belong to some society, and to that they have some expectations and some demands. So these individuals or groups or organizations keeping in the interest of that particular society they belong to, they bring forward their concerns and present it to the organization, and the organization are most of the time expected to fulfill and those demands and expectations to maintain their goodwill towards those stakeholders and or the society in general. So this diagrams gives us a broader perspective of what possible stakeholders can a business have. If we move a couple of centuries back or more even, we had different businesses and we didn't have too many competitors or too many products or too many services offered few centuries back. And obviously the main aim of the businesses were to deliver products or some kind of services, and that was their main agenda for most part. And so their basic stakeholders at that time or and the part of their strategy was to um, deal with the customers and keep the business profitable. That was the main idea of that era. As things started to develop and more people got associated to the strategic aspects of the business, the more the stakeholders were recognized and more of their opinion became a direct part of the strategies the businesses were working on. So if we start for any business, the initial stakeholders are supposed to be their owners and their employees, and obviously owners are the direct controllers of those businesses, and consumers are something that keeps your business running and keeps you profitable. So the owners, the internal employees, and the consumers are expected to be the most initial stakeholders of your. And next, the community you are working in is obviously something you need to have the goodwill of. So you should work in a way that you keep the community pleased rather than offending them in any ways. Even the you have to respect their culture, their values, and you have to deliver your products and services in such a way that you don't compromise the respect for their values. And we will be discussing it in further detail. And next are the governmental entities. Obviously when you are working in any region, there are legal obligations that you have to follow, and that are basically defined by the government of that geographical location. Employees, as we have discussed, that how important the employees are, and these are the true drivers of your business or organization in general. So starting with the government. Obviously, we have just discussed that government is one of the fundamental stakeholders when it comes to any business in any region, and because they have federal authorities over you, and not only that, but they have the local authorities over you that have the administrative control of that area, or the state control over you, and they might have they probably will have different kind of legislative rules, sets of obligations that you are supposed to follow. Either they are in terms of setting up your business and the cash flow of your business, the tax returns you are filing, or the even the ethical and moral obligations you are supposed to follow. So this is based upon the governmental aspect of stakeholders, and also you have to take into consideration the aspect of the political environment in that region. The most stable, you have to do research on it, as we have and discussed in the previous lecture as well, that when you are doing marketing you have to do your research, like not only marketing but on every step of your business you have to make an informed decision. So you have to do the research on the political environment of that region as well, that how the situation have been in the past years and how much it is expected to change. So the more stable the political environment is, the lesser the fluctuation is in the policies of that region, the much better it is for your organization to place itself in. If we look at the aspect of the community, obviously there is general public in that region, and that general public may not be the direct investor or the direct buyer or utilizer of your services or products, but obviously their opinion about your organization do matter, because it's the goodwill at the end of the day, and that either enriches your stability in that region, or enhances the reach of your business towards other regions. Or if you don't have the goodwill of the general public in the areas you have been working, you may not be able to thrive as much as you are expecting to thrive in that region. Next are the environmental groups. When we are talking about the community, obviously if you are doing some business that is affecting the environment of that region, and there will be environmental groups that will be watching your actions of your organization, and in case you violate the principles or compromise the environmental parameters, they will put forward their demands and will expect you to fulfill them. Next are the civic groups. These are basically the voluntarily groups, and that are based that belong to some particular community, and keeping in view of the interest of that community, they may suggest you to do some changes in your business, or how can you further become more appealing to that community in particular. Or if they have some kind of concerns, like in advertisement of many brands, we have seen different examples where they have shown the ad that had hurt the sentiment of particular communities, red Indians for example in USA. So these civic groups basically work voluntarily, and they represent their community, and they bring forward their demands, and they may also take legal actions against you while taking in support of the legal system that is existent within that region or area. So this is the role of community. Next are your employees. Your employees, if starting with the most experienced people that are within your organization, they know the ins and outs of your organization or business very well. so they will probably have better influence within your organization. And then next are the unions. Unions obviously are the groups of employees, either they are on middle level or lower level, and they tend to bring forward their expectations from the organizations, and they expect them to be fulfilled. Last are the activists. Activists are the group of people that might be associated to your organization in direct manner or may have been your employees in the past, and these are the kind of people that work or offer their services on voluntarily basis, and they basically keep your organization or any business in the related industry in check. For example, there are activists within different industries that work against child labor, right? We have seen different examples in Pakistan, and in the western there are activists that are working on the equal gender pay, and we have seen examples here as well. So activists are the people who know the systems of different organization or industries well enough and are knowledgeable about it and try to bring change and impact put the impact on the industry in general term or broader terms. Then we have the owners. Owners can obviously be the private citizens, can be the institutional groups if it's a corporate setup, and can be the board members, and obviously their decisions are the uh, steering of that organization. Then can be your consumers. Consumers are profitability that you are generating is based upon the satisfaction of your average consumer and the happiness or the goodwill they have towards your business or some product or service in particular. Then obviously next are the product liabilities. Product liabilities are the associated expectations that are supposed to be fulfilled, that are further associated to our consumers as well. And just like we have discussed that there can be employees from some particular industry, right? Likewise there can be social activists as well that can offer their services on voluntarily basis and can also be part of some NGO. They may be working individually or they can be working in groups, and they may believe in some cause and they would probably want to see some kind of change that is probably better for the society in general. So they may come up with their demands and bring them forward to the organization. Now once we have our stakeholders figured out, now we have to manage them in an effective way that can help us to prioritize them and deal with them in timely manner. One of the basic uh, approach to manage our stakeholders is by utilizing the stakeholder responsibility matrix. In this we can see that our stakeholders in general are our owners, customers, employees, community, public at large, social activists, and others. And then we observe those stakeholders in different aspects. So to begin with, we have our owners, and we will be comparing them in economic terms, that what's the influence of our owners, and is it even related to the economics of our business, and do the decisions of the owners or the influence of owners affect our economic of the economical terms of our business. If it's a yes, then we will be checking this checkbox. Second, we will be seeing that if our owners have different legal rights to the business or have any influence when it comes to the legal aspect of the business. If it is a yes, then we will be checking it. Second is coming to the next one, if we see the owners and they have some ethical responsibility or have ethical influence on our business, then we will be again checking this box here. And lastly, philanthropic is basically the aspect of a business in which they are giving back to the society, right? We saw the initiative of Coca-Cola a year back or so, the bottle of change, and they said that this much amount of or percentage and that will go straight to the Easy Foundation on sale of every bottle, right? So that's the philanthropic aspect of any business, that how much they are giving back to the community. So we will be seeing that if the owners are associated to the philanthropic cause or have influence over the philanthropic cause of the business, then we will be checking this box as well. So if we come to the next step, we have to check how much the customers are related to the economics of our uh, business. If it's a yes, which in most cases will be, because it's the customers upon which our benefits is driven, so we will be checking this one as well. Obviously, in case of if we have some business in which the customer can claim back in legal ways against some service or product, so in that case the customer will again be checked in this area as well. Ethically, what's the influence of the customer? If there is directly influence of ethical on our business from the customer side, then it will be checked, or otherwise it will be left blank as it is. And again, the philanthropic cause, if our customer have some kind of influence on our philanthropic cause, then we will be checking it, otherwise we will be leaving it as it is. So this is how you have to consider some business, and you have to check mark the responsibility that may be associated to that stakeholder. If that exists, then the more check marks we have against any of these stakeholders, the higher the responsibility and there is, and this is what defines the priority associated to or attributed to those stakeholders. But this approach is not that much effective, because it may help you to prioritize, but it will be in qualitative terms at most. We won't be able to quantify. If, for example, if we have two stakeholders, if we take example of owners and employees, right, and they have all these check boxes filled, right, and if you are doing or making some strategy, how you will be able to justify the priority when both of these stakeholders have these check boxes filled with them, right? You won't be able to do that, because they would seem equal to you. So this is where the quantification aspect of the stakeholder responsibility comes in terms of power and interest rate. It's basically a 2x2 matrix, and based on that we justify the interest and influence of that particular stakeholder. So when you will be gauging any stakeholder, you will pick them one by one and you will try to place them in any of these four matrix boxes, and this will justify that who needs to be taken care of first, right? So we first have to understand it what this is. On our y-axis we have the interest in the organization and activities. We have to gauge if a stakeholder is interested in the organization and its associated activities. If some stakeholder is highly interested in our activities, then we will be placing them in the higher category over here, or if they don't have much interest in it, our organization or our activities, so they will be graded as of low interest. Second, at the same time, we will be seeing at what is the potential level of influence those stakeholders, or what's the potential threat they can pose toward our organization. Those stakeholders have higher level of influence over our organization, we will be considering them in possibilities, or otherwise we will be gauging them in these two possibilities, right? So let's take few examples to understand this aspect of the power grid interest. If we take example of the CEOs of an organization, right? We take the initial or the most primary stakeholder of any business. We have the owners, right? These individuals, either it's a one or a group of them, they have high interest in the organizational activities, right? And at the same time they have high influence on that organization. That's why they will be placed in the players box here, or players category here. Secondly, if we take examples of different regulatory bodies, right? If we take example of different firms that are set by the organizations. For example, if we take example of media industry, Pembra is controlling them. They may have high interest in the organizational activities, but they may be a lower threat to your organization because they don't have the direct say in your organization. They may notify you in case of any issue or any compromisation, and they may pursue it legally in the time ahead, but they are not there to run your business on daily basis. So these are the groups or the administration bodies that have high interest in whatever you are doing, but have low potential to threat your organization. Next, we take example of what context setters are. The tobacco industry, right? In the tobacco industry, there were activists that have worked for years and years to get the advertisement from the TV off about smoking, and even in the different movies that you watch, whenever there is a scene on some TV channel that in which the actor is smoking, and there is a little cautionary line written right below the line that suggests that smoking is injurious to health and is not recommended, right, or is not promoted by any of the actors in that particular setting. Moreover, they have put on different labels. Now the cigarette industry have to put different labels on their product that may show different kind of diseased people that have either got lung cancer or mouth cancer or different kind of ailments as a result of smoking, and on each package that label statement or picture is depicted there. So this is the example of the context setters, how they shape up your business, right, or how they influence activities of your organization. So the context setters of in terms of the activists working against the tobacco industry, obviously they had lower interest in the basic activities of your organization and have been less involved in the direct decision making, but again they became a higher threat and they pursued you in legal ways over the years, right? So these are the context setters that may even change the direction of that business. And lastly are the crowds. These are the individuals or groups that have lower interest in your organizational activities and are of less or no threat to your organization. So all the stakeholders that don't get to qualify for these three aspects are placed in our crowd area. So once we have figured out that who is a potential threat and who is not, and who is a context setter and who is crowd and who is the subject, we have to further take actions accordingly. So for the players that are of high influence on our business and have large interest and high interest in our organization, we have to manage them closely, we have to observe them closely, we have to comply with their will and their aims and their objectives. uh, and then the subjects, we have to keep them satisfied, like in example of PEMRA or PTA for the telecommunication industries. We have to abide by their laws and keep fulfilling them and keep them satisfied. And in terms of context setters, you have to have the kind of goodwill towards them, as well as keep them informed that your organization is doing well and is keeping up with the rules and the expectations of the law and society, right? So you have to just keep them informed and not put too much effort in that. And lastly is the crowd. Obviously you can just ignore them, but you have to monitor them if there are any changes in case of any situation that arises. And one of the things that you have to bear in mind is that you have to define your players, your subjects, your crowd and context setters on regular basis. There may be a case that there may be some group or individual that you once have placed in the crowd and it may become a context setter for you, right? Let's take example that you are doing some kind of business and you put the media in the crowd section, and you didn't think that media was directly related to the influence on your business, right? But in case of some incident or in case of some big change in policy making on a massive scale, the media becomes the influence of higher level in your organization or for your organization. So it will be shifting from the crowd aspect to the context setters aspect. So there can be other examples obviously, and that how different entities placed in different aspects of our strategic matrix can keep shifting from one aspect to another aspect depending on their role and their influence over businesses. So that's it for today, and today we discussed about what stakeholders are and how we have to identify them, and then we have to prioritize them, and how they further enhance our business or may even pose threat to our business, and how we have to strategize and keep updating our strategies while keeping in view of the influence of our stakeholders. So that's it for today, and hope to see you in the next lecture.